Hi, welcome back. I'm so happy to have you here. We're going to talk about the Sleeping Beauty in the Wood one more time today. We're going to retell the story. Mrs. Keeler is going to retell the story and show the pictures again. And we're going to talk about some things today, okay? In the story of the Sleeping Beauty in the Wood, remember that the king and queen could not have children, and that's all they wanted. That seems to be a common theme among fairy tales, huh? A lot of them couldn't have children, and that was their only desire. Remember Tom Thumb and Thumbelina? That was, we found out that in those stories too. So in the Sleeping Beauty in the Wood, they finally are able to have a child, and they are getting ready to have a big celebration, a big party to celebrate her birth. And they invite all the fairies except who? The one fairy that everyone thought was dead because she was really old and she lived in a tower all by herself and nobody'd seen her for a long time, right? Do you think that the parents loved the princess? Do you think the king and queen loved her? And let's talk about some ways that we can tell that they loved her. On page 10, it says that's when we start the story, that's all they wanted. So we know that they're going to love her because that was the deepest desire of their heart, right? And so these fairies come and they each give her a gift. And I'm going to reread you the gifts that they gave to the princess. Now remember, one of the fairies hid behind the curtain when the old fairy showed up because she wanted to be the last one to give a gift in case the old fairy gave an evil gift. So it says, soon it was time to give the gifts to the princess. The youngest fairy said she would grow up to be beautiful. The next, that she should have the wit of an angel. The third promised her grace. That means beauty in the way that she walked and moved. The fourth gave her the gift of dancing. The fifth, the gift of singing. And the last fairy said she would be able to play sweet music on any instrument she took up. So those were the 6 fairies. Then it was the old fairy's turn. And what gift did she give the princess? Do you remember? Her words were, one day she will prick her hand on a tiny spindle, and when this happens, she will die. And is that what happened? No, because the young fairy who had hidden behind the curtains came out and gave her gift, and she said, no, my king and queen, your child will not die of this wound. It is true I have not the power to change an older fairy's gift. The princess will indeed pierce her finger with a spindle, but instead of dying, she shall only fall into a deep sleep. Do you think that the king and queen were happy about this gift? I think they were too. They would probably rather have her sleep for a long time than have her die, right? Yeah. Okay, so what happens? Here's the evil fairy giving her gift to the child, to the princess. And what happens? One day, the king and queen are away out in the countryside, and the princess finds an old lady spinning. She hadn't ever even known about the rule that the king said to burn all of the spinning wheels in the kingdom, right? After the gift was placed. That was another way he showed that he loved the princess. He tried to get rid of every spinning wheel so that she wouldn't prick her finger. He was trying to protect her, right? But this one day she finds this woman and she wants to try spinning, and what happens? She pricks her finger. And does she die? She doesn't die, but she goes into a deep sleep. And the young fairy who gave her the gift that she would go into deep sleep comes back to the kingdom and puts everyone else to sleep as well so that she won't be sad when she wakes up 100 years later and everybody's gone, because everybody will have died by then, because 100 years is a long time. So she puts everyone to sleep. And who comes 100 years later? You see? the prince. And he asks the story behind the castle there, behind the turrets, which is the top of the castle. And he gets a whole bunch of different stories. And finally, he just decides he needs to go in and see what is in there. And what does he find? He finds the beautiful princess sleeping, doesn't he? He sees a lot of other people and he thinks they're dead, but then he realizes they're just sleeping. When she wakes up, what happens? She's so happy to see the prince, and she kind of feels like she already knows him, doesn't she? She thinks that maybe the fairy gave her good dreams while she was sleeping for all of those years, so that she would know who the prince was. She felt like she kind of already knew him. And of course, they get married and live happily ever after, right? Yeah. Well, today, for part of your lesson for language arts, you get to draw a picture of your favorite scene from The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood, okay? So some of the things that you could ask yourself are what the old fairy gives the princess as her gift, how the princess pricks her finger, what the bed looked like that the princess laid in. Remember, it was embroidered with silver and gold, so you could draw her laying on her beautiful bed. The prince coming to the castle, like in the book. Also, the princess waking up and seeing the prince there. You could draw some of the pictures of the people sleeping while it was the 100 years. Whatever your favorite part of the story was. And I want you to take your time and write a sentence or two, or tell your learning coach and they can write them for you, about why this was your favorite scene in the book. Okay, what your favorite part of the book was. And a scene is a part of the story, okay, where something takes place. So I want you to draw your favorite scene and maybe even share it with your family today when they get home later today. Maybe at dinner you could show everybody your beautiful artwork, your favorite scene, and tell them why it was your favorite scene from the story of The Sleeping Beauty in the Wood. Okay? I'll see you next time.